I have broken everything up into three sections: shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, just to simplify things, and of course to make it a little bit faster moving. You can catch up on all these in separate little sections that I'm going to be posting, and I already have posted some things, so by all means have a look at them. If this is your first time here, leave me a like if you like what you hear and what you see. On the other hand, um, please subscribe because there's more information coming. And we have some speakers coming up. I don't have a date yet for Donna Waxman, but Donna Waxman is an excellent photographer and instructor at Mohawk College. And one of the things that she teaches a class on is water drop photography or refraction photography, where she uses water drops as a lens. And so you can see through this lens into the objects in the background. So please, if you keep coming here, you will find that there will be a time when I will actually have a date up for this. The other one we do have a date for, which is September the 24th. I have Terry Gilman, who's going to be talking about Madagascar. And she went with her husband, Reg, sailing to Madagascar, and she took some excellent photographs. She managed to get into areas where very few tourists ever go and where very few tourists are ever seen by the villagers. So this is really going to be a worthwhile presenter. The one thing that she does talk about is some of the challenges she had with the heat and with her camera equipment and how she overcame them and managed to get some of her best pictures, according to her. So, by all means, make sure you stay tuned for Madagascar. The other one, which I'm really excited about, is forensic photography. Now, this forensic photography is going to be presented by Rob Rigoli, and he is a photography instructor in forensics at the Ontario Police College. And he has consented to come in and give a little talk about photography, forensic photography in particular, and that will be taking place now on September the 10th, coming up at 7 p.m. on this chat. So by all means, please come and see that one. That's going to be very exciting. I'm really looking forward to this particular chat. Now, we'll get the first things first out of the way, and that will be, of course, the short lesson on ISO. So let's get started uh, immediately. Okay, on most cameras, the ISO is shown on the back of the camera. On this particular camera, you can see it here as being ISO 400 is what it has been set for. Now, it's always a good idea that anytime you're taking any instructions, whether it be personal or whether it be on the web, to have your instruction manual ready, because not all cameras are the same. And since we can't cover all cameras, I only cover a couple of cameras and different possibilities. This particular camera, if you want to set the ISO, what you have to do is you have to go to the info button, press the info button, and that will change the back of your screen so that the, let's see here, the ISO button or window actually lights up right here. This window will light up, and once that lights up and you click on it, your ISO values will be displayed across the screen and you'll be able to make the selections. Of course, not all cameras are the same. I'm just going to back up for a second and show you my camera and what you can see on this one. Now, this is a Nikon mirrorless Z50. And if you have a look at this one, I'm going to turn this on, you'll see, tilt it the right way around. Let me level it out. You'll see that the ISO is displayed right there. Now, to access the ISO on this camera, it's very simple. On the very top, right here, it has an ISO button. All I have to do is push that ISO button. Let me do it. See if I can manage this without dropping the camera. And I'll push the ISO button, and you can see what happens. The ISO lights up, and I can pick whatever ISO I choose to by holding that button down and turning the selector dial at the same time. Now, I have set it for 160 right there. Anyway, that's how you do it on that. You'll have to look at your own instruction manual in order to figure out how you do it on yours, but it's usually pretty simple. They usually have the ISO button pretty straightforward and up front to be able to access it quickly because things change. Lighting changes, and you may want to change your ISO. Okay, so let's just get on with the lesson here. We've covered all that. Good. So the ISO basics. Now, I am just going to go to the next one. We're talking about ISO. And what is ISO? It stands for International Organization for Standardization. Now, I don't know why they didn't call it iOS, but there's a reason. But it is ISO. And this is a carryover from ASA in film days, which stood for American Standards Association. Now, the American Standards Association were the ones that were relegated to make sure that films were all the same sensitivity. If they were classified as 100 ISO films, they all had the same sensitivity across the spectrum. All the manufacturers had to make sure that they met the ASA standard, the American Standard Association outline for the standardization of sensitivity for film. So one company couldn't make a film that they classified as 100 ISO that they said is better or more sensitive than the other company. So what happened was the international community adopted the ASA standard, and it became the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO. So you can change your ISO on your camera anytime you want, which is perfect. And that is one of the beauties of having a digital camera, is that your camera is capable of changing ISO on the fly. So that's kind of neat. So just to reiterate, ISO sets the camera sensor's sensitivity to light. So you change the sensitivity of your sensor to light by changing the ISO. So you can make it more sensitive or less sensitive. When you have lots of light, you can make it less sensitive. When you don't have a lot of light, you can make it more sensitive so that it will pick up the detail and give you a good exposure. Now, here are the settings. I have put down here, I haven't put all the settings down here because there are some cameras that go as low as 50 ISO, but they're few and far between. Generally speaking, 100 is the lowest, then 200, 400, 800, 1600, and 3200. Now, it's easy to see how this works as far as sensitivity is concerned. So let me just grab my little arrow here, and I can go over to 100 and 200 and 400 and 800. So mathematically, you can see that they're doubling and halving. They're doubling and halving. So if you go towards the lower number, of course, it's less sensitive. So the least sensitive will be the 100 ISO. And as you go higher, it will be more sensitive. So it's sensible. Now, here's the interesting thing as it relates to shutter speed and aperture. When we talked about shutter speed and aperture, we talked about standard shutter speeds and standard apertures. They half and double. One half and doubled the time of exposure, the other one half and doubled the amount of light, how much light was allowed to get in. This one halves and doubles the sensitivity. So if I go from 100 to 200, that's twice as sensitive. Or if I go from 1600, or if I go the other way, from 3200 to 1600, or in this direction, I keep halving the sensitivity. Going to the left is less sensitive. Going to the right is more sensitive. Okay. In the next lesson, we'll explore how aperture affects depth of field. Depth of field is a whole different conversation. Now, the reason I bring that up right now is because if you recall, shutter speed technically controlled the time of exposure, but on an artistic side, it controlled either freezing action or blurring action, stopping motion or blurring motion, whereas aperture controlled the amount of light allowed in or depth of field. So let's have a look at the other thing that ISO controls is noise. Now, back in film days, we used to call this not noise, but we used to call it grain, or how grainy a photograph is. Whereas with digital, because it is digital, we call it noise. So if you go from 100 and start making the sensitivity higher and higher, you get more noise in your photograph. That's why most photographers would prefer to go at a low ISO to have the least amount of noise. Now, some photographers will actually crank the ISO to be able to get some noise. This adds maybe some sort of an artistic flair to that particular photograph that you want. You want it to be noisy. But typically, that's something that most photographers really don't want. So you try to get away with the lowest possible ISO that you can in order to relieve that noise problem. So let's have a look at this. This photograph that I'm showing you. Oh, by the way, I must say that all the photographs that I show here were taken by students. This is low noise. And this is high noise. I'll show that to you again. Low noise, high noise. Now, I don't know if you on your computer or what you're watching this on, you can see the difference between the high noise and the low noise. So that's low, this is high. Let me show you a close-up of these. So here we have low noise over here, and you can see how smooth the skin is here. High noise, you can see the noise across the subject's forehead, down the nose, virtually everywhere. So that's what noise looks like, or grain. Some people still call it grain, which by me, that's fine too. It looks grainy. So, but technically it's noise these days. Now, do we have any questions? By the way, if you're here on YouTube, I'd like to welcome you. And if you have any questions, just type them into the live chat box and I can have a look at them and be happy to answer them for you. Now, we had somebody watching the last presentation and they were talking about f-stops, or we were talking about f-stops, and they asked me about t-stops and what t-stops were. So t-stops is a type of f-stop that's used mostly with lenses that have to do with cinematography. And t-stops really are a little bit different because what they measure light at is the light value after the lens. So any absorption in the lens isn't there. It's calculated on the light that exits the lens to the sensor or to the film. Those are t-stops. And arguably, they may be both accurate, f-stop or t-stop. Some people say t-stops are more accurate. I suppose for cine films, they need that kind of accuracy. Our photography was, if you stick with f-stops and use them, you'll still get good exposures. Even though an f-stop and a t-stop might not be equal, they might be a little bit different from each other depending on the configuration of your lens. But that's a t-stop, mostly used in cinematography, just in case anybody was wondering. And I would really appreciate it if I know if you're here on YouTube, if you just drop me a quick chat and let me know who you are and where you're from, and maybe what interest you have in photography. I would really like that. I'd really love to hear from you. So that's our lesson for tonight on ISO. If you missed that lesson tonight and you want to hear about it, then all you have to do is come back to YouTube after. This video will be posted on my channel. And please, if you like what you heard or if you like the presentation, please give me a like and definitely subscribe. I would really appreciate that. So, are there any questions, any statements, anything from anybody? Oh boy, we're trying to make this chat as successful as we can. And oh, we have 9 people here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome everybody, and I'm glad you're here. You missed the presentation on ISO, but like I was just saying, you can always catch up on that just by coming back to YouTube when this presentation is over. It will be on YouTube, and you can scroll through and find that lesson. And you will also find some of the interesting chats that are coming up and presenters that I have. I can go over those very quickly again because we have Donna Waxman, who's going to be talking about water drop photography, and that's using a water drop as a lens for things in the background. She's an excellent teacher. She teaches at Mohawk Cottage, same place I teach, and she's got an excellent presentation for you on water drop photography. The other one is, and don't miss this one, September the 24th, Terry Gilman. Terry Gilman and her husband Reg sailed around the world, and one of the destinations they had was Madagascar. And Madagascar, they had a beautiful time. They went to a village where there are very few tourists, and they see very few tourists. But she had some problems. She had some technical problems with her camera with the heat. And she'll tell you all about that and how she overcame her problems. And despite those problems, she got some of the best pictures, at least she feels, some of the best pictures of the entire trip. And right now, last but not least, is forensic photography. I have a guest speaker coming, Rob Rigoli, who is an instructor in forensic photography. He trains police in forensic photography at the Ontario Police College. So don't miss this one. This one's going to be really super exciting. If you subscribe to my channel and you click the notify button, you'll be notified of this upcoming event, and I think it'll be exciting. And these aren't the only things that we're going to be having. This will be on September the 10th. Other things that are upcoming, I'm going to have a young lady who is going to show you her fine art photographs. But what she's done is she's placed these fine art photographs into photographs of homes. And so it's sort of a, what can I call it? Well, it's showing you how photographs can be used in different situations in home. So interior design, if you want to call it that, and the use of fine art photographs in interior design. So please show up for that one. Again, I appreciate you. Oh, one more. We're going to have somebody on drone photography. Now, I'm a fledgling drone photographer, and I just started, but so I have somebody coming in who's an expert, and we'll show you some of the types of drone photographs that they've taken and how to learn about drone photography, what it is, what's involved in getting your license, your actual pilot's license to be a drone photographer if you get into larger and heavier drones. Now, if you have any questions, like I say, please drop them into chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Questions about upcoming, or even if you have suggestions about upcoming speakers on my chat channel. I'm always willing to listen. And if you have anything that you're interested in, give me a quick little chat message that you'd be interested in hearing about a certain topic, and I'll make sure I research that and get it out for you. But those other ones that I mentioned, the water drop photography, the uh, Madagascar photography, and finally the forensic photography are all upcoming. Please make yourselves available for those. They're going to be exciting. Now, it seems like tonight we don't have any questions. I'd like to know where you're from. That's always important. If you could do that in the chat, I'd really love that. If not, I think I'm going to call tonight an early chat, unless you want me to talk about something. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. Um, 60 years in commercial photography and industrial commercial photography. In other words, um, I've done a little bit of everything, but mostly working with industry, taking photographs of either products, processes, or advertising. That's my background. And one of these days, maybe I'll show you a bit of my portfolio and you can have a look at the kind of work that I used to do. Also, I've been teaching for Mohawk College for probably 55 years, almost 60. And I've taught Photo 1, Photo 2. I've taught industrial photography there, commercial photography, portrait photography, and I've taught let's see, 3D photography, which was quite interesting. And I've also taught fashion photography as a weekend course. And that was a lot of fun and very interesting because we had the Mohawk College aesthetics department do all the makeup and we had all kinds of costumes. And we ended up with some really great photographs that I'll be happy to show you sometime if you're interested. But like I said, by all means, let me know who you are, where you're from. I would appreciate that. Thank you.